up, everybody? I'm back from watching 28 Years Later, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about it. The first part of this review will be spoiler-free, but then I will be getting into spoilers regarding the ending after that, so be sure to stick around if you want to see that, or go watch the movie first before you get to that part. I will let you know before I go into any spoilers. Now, the most exciting thing about this for me was that I have seen the first two. I recently went back and rewatched, and I forgot what a really good emotional connection you get with these films. There are several scenes in the first one in particular where you really feel this emotional connection with the characters and what it's like living through a zombie apocalypse, I guess you'd call it. So I was really hoping for some of that to return, along with the creative filmmaking. I don't know if you've seen this image yet or not, but some of the behind the scenes stuff from this movie are absolutely nuts. Here's an image of an iPhone rig that was used for some of the scenes. These are very noticeable in the film itself. It has that bullet time or that matrix effect. The entire movie was shot on iPhone 15, but when people say that, it's hooked up to a giant lens and everything like that. So you really have to take that with a grain of salt. You're not going to get an iPhone like you see here in this image just going and shooting it. But they did use this effect several times throughout the film, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Overall, this story goes something about long story short, this kid is trying to help his mother. And it's this group of people that have their own organized city, I guess you'd call it, on their own island, and they need to go out for various things into zombie territory, and that's when you see all the massacre take place, right? That's when you get all the action. So I will say that this one is extremely bloody. There are some really creative kills in this one when it comes to zombie type action. So if you're into that thing, I think you'll really like it. The movie's about 2 hours long, but it didn't feel that long. It moved at a pretty good pace. And I was really interested in the story, and I cared about the characters. Would you have to watch the first two to really appreciate this one? At the end of the day, I don't really think so. As long as you understand the premise that these zombies got out in the UK, and they quarantined Great Britain into holding that, and now here's the aftermath of what's happening after those zombies were supposedly eradicated or quarantined or contained in that area. The characters are obviously new people that we have not seen before in any of the other entries, so I don't think you need to necessarily go back and watch unless you just want to. So I will say that this is the best looking one of the three. The other two were also shot on digital cameras, and the quality has just completely gotten way better, even with it being on iPhone. I really had trouble distinguishing in the movie theater, what this was filmed on. Some sections definitely look different for sure. Not in a necessarily bad way, but more in like a stylistic way. I think Danny Boyle really nailed it here, getting his style across in this film. Also, the acting was really good, especially from the young actor. Let's look up his name here just so I don't get this wrong. So the main character here is Spike, and he's played by Alfie Williams. So Spike, he does an incredible job, and his parents, also great. And then Ralph Fiennes comes in as a doctor later in the film. All incredible. The acting in here definitely stands out to me as being top-notch for one of these movies. Although they typically do have very good acting because there's a lot of emotionality that goes into these films. Overall, I would give this film, I'm leaning towards a 4 out of 5. And that's just because the cinematography was interesting and looked great. The story was compelling and the acting was excellent. So I think these three things led up to a 4 out of 5 for me. Overall, I think if you enjoy zombie movies, you would really like this one, right? Especially if you like things like The Walking Dead or you like the previous entries, this one's definitely worth checking out. As far as the plot goes, and here's where we're going to get into a little bit of spoiler territory. So if you don't want to listen to this part, I totally understand. You can go ahead and go to another video. But the ending is really what kind of took me off guard, right? So to go through the plot a little bit, you start off in the past, and I believe it's 28 years later. Obviously, that's the name of the movie. But we have this opening sequence of a zombie attack, leaving one child left alive. And then we fast forward 28 years, and we're thrown in with another family. This time they're on a secluded island with just their community. Looks like they have a good thing going on. They've got different jobs for everybody in the community, and everybody's contributing. And this father decides now that his son, Spike, is 12 years old, it is time for him to go out and learn how to kill these zombies, right? And you've got his mother at home who's sick. She's clearly sick. It looks like dementia. You're not quite sure what it is. They never really address it. Maybe she just has a bad fever. But anyway, so now the story goes where you follow young Spike and his father across this waterway that floods over every morning, so they can only get across at certain times of day, and it helps keep the zombies out. They call it the mainland. That's where they're going to go, is over to the mainland. So they make their way over there, and it's time to hunt. Different types of zombies in this movie, right? In the first couple films, we're just used to the fast-moving zombies. Now, they've got fast-moving zombies. They've got fat zombies. They've got baby zombies. They've got pregnant zombies. They've got alpha zombies. For example, the fat zombies move slowly. They typically crawl along the ground. And so that's who they encounter first. He shoots one with the arrow in the neck, and they're trained to shoot only in the head and the heart, and he misses, so it's like funny to them. But of course, they get surprise attacked, and this goes on for a while. Then they run into some fast zombies. We learn with him what an alpha is. So we see this giant alpha zombie who's completely nude, by the way. Most of these zombies are just completely naked. These alpha zombies are giants, right? And they have this technique of killing where they grab their prey by the skull and just rip the skull with the spine directly at their head. And they do this several times throughout the film, whether it be animals or people. It is quite gruesome. So there's lots of bloody gore and violence in this one. But then they come back home eventually. They barely make it back, getting chased down by an alpha. Very scary. The whole town celebrates when the kid and the father return, treat him like a little hero, even though he knows in the back of his mind he's still not ready for this. And he's back now with his sick mom and thinking, how can we help her? There's an older gentleman named Sam that's at the house with them that says, oh, did you guys see the fire in the distance? And they said, yeah, we saw that fire in the distance on the mainland and the southwest. And the father said to stay away from there. So now that the wheels start turning in the boy's head, oh, we got to get mom over there so that she can get checked out. So now he sees the father cheating on the sick wife, keeps them apart, takes mom, and I guess tricks her in a way to going across to the mainland by saying we're going to go to the beach. And the mom is with the kid. Now they're over the mainland by themselves. No backup or protection, which he definitely needs from what we just saw. And now it's up to them to find this doctor, etc. This young army man from Switzerland saves her life at one point. Then he gets his skull ripped out by a alpha. Then we watch a really weird scene where a zombie mother gives birth to a child. And yeah, so they keep the kid who apparently is not infected somehow. And so now we've got the mom, we've got the son, and we've got this tiny baby. And we're just moving across the countryside trying to find this doctor. Eventually they find the doctor, who's played by Ralph Fiennes. And this doctor says, I don't have any gear or equipment, but I'll try and help diagnose. So now you've got the mother with the son, the mother getting diagnosed by this doctor. And he basically says, you have cancer and there's really no saving. So see this sculpture of skulls that I have in my yard? You're going to be the next one. And takes her out, shoots her with some kind of a blow dart, strips her of her skin, and gives the skull to the kid and says, here, kid, put your mom in the best spot. Like that, like what? We're at 15 minutes from the end at this point, and I'm thinking, I cannot believe that this doctor just did this. That is like the most absurd thing I think I've ever seen in a movie. The kid decides to take the child and go back to the island, but he decides not to stay at his original home. He drops the baby in the basket off at the front gate and runs back to the mainland to just kind of live on his own until a gang of zombie hunters. And the end, that's it. This was a really solid story until they killed the mom, in my opinion, because that's when it took a turn that I was just not expecting. And then the little gang at the end was really out of left field for me as well. I did enjoy it, though. Overall, I definitely enjoyed it. There was one or two chuckles throughout the movie, so it wasn't super serious the whole time, but it also wasn't like a gore fest or a blood fest or a fun time most of the time either. It was a good balance of drama, along with action, along with a tiny bit of humor. Would I recommend this? I think so. If you like this kind of movie, or if you like horror movies, I think it's a solid entry into this franchise for sure. So I would definitely check that one out if you get a chance. And as far as my official ranking of the three different films, I would definitely put number one second. This one on top of that. I think this would be the number one movie for me. And I say that just because the digital noise is so distracting in the first one, and the volume discrepancies between the quiet parts and the loud parts. When I was watching this at home, there were several times where I had the volume cranked just to hear what they were saying, only to be attacked by noise 5 seconds later. And it was very frustrating. And this went on the entire film. I think this one was just better produced, although the original is incredible. And I love a lot of the scenes in that film. There's a couple of deaths that were very gut-wrenching. And even at the beginning, those scenes of an empty London, it's just amazing how they pulled that off back then. So I definitely give it props for that. But for me, I'm a sucker for quality. And I just like the more modern feel to this one as well. Didn't have a whole lot to say in comparison to the first one, though. But for now, I'm going to make it number one. But that could change. Did you guys see this movie yet? What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And I'll see you at the next show.